Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this recitation of a-sabad-a-day from Rag Bihagra Ki War, composition of both Mahalla Tija and Mahalla Chotha. The first salok is as follows. Karam Dharam Sabh Bandhana, Paap Pun San Bandh, Mamata Moh So Bandhana, Putra Kalatra So Tand, Jah Dekha Tah Jeveri Maya Ka Sanbandh, Nanak Sache Naam Bin Vartan Vart And. So let's translate this first. Karam Dharam Sabh Bandhana. Karam Dharam here refers to religious duties and rites, what we do as external rituals. So the Guru says all rituals and religious duties are nothing more than forms of bondage. They tie you down. So are connections to sins and virtues. Papa pun sanbandh. You know, when we categorize things as sinful or virtuous, good or bad, these are all definitions that tie us down. And so are attachments and emotional ties, whether the attachment is to children, to spouse, worldly affairs. They're all forms of bondage. Mamata, moho, sabandhana. Mamta, moho, maternal affection, attachments, as is putra, kalatra, tand. Your worldly affairs, tanda, what you do as your job. All of this, the Guru says, is bondage. In fact, he goes on to say, wherever I look, I see nothing but the chains of Maya. These are what binds you is Maya, the world we live in. And it is the illusion of Maya that the Guru is speaking about. What does it mean to say that Maya is illusion? We will hopefully be able to touch on that. Nanak Sache Naam Bin Vartan Vart And. Without wisdom, ignorance and darkness prevails. So what is the nature of this darkness? What it is it is lack of awareness. Awareness of what? Awareness of our true nature. And awareness of the nature of the self, which is at the root of our being, our existence. What is it? What is its nature? From which we have come forth, from which we spring. So ignorance also is that we mistake the transient world for the real. And then we grasp onto things. Our desires make us grasp onto things and to relationships that will guaranteed fade away. So this is Maya. It's constant change. So does that mean that we ought not to cultivate relationships or to amass wealth or not to live in the world? No, it doesn't mean that. What it means is that if we need to first recognize that Maya is constant change. So whether you like it or not, the world of phenomena is constant change. So you cannot stem the tide of change. So if you cannot stem the tide of change, then use wisdom as a tool to ride this change. How do you master this change? And the way to do that is what the Guru is telling us. Essentially, become the initiator of the change rather than its victim, rather than being at the receiving end. Be a step ahead. That's the whole idea here in this salok. In the second salok, Ande chanan ta thiye, Ande chanan ta thiye, Ja Satgur mile rajai, Bandhan tode sach vasai, अज्ञान अधेरा जाए, सब किछ देखे तिसै का, जिन किया तन साज, नानक शरण करतार की, करता राखे लाज. So here is an injunction to acquire good wisdom. That state of ignorance that we talked about can be illuminated, anda chanan tat hai, only if one follows the light, the direction of the enlightener. Ja Satguru mile rajai. And when the enlightener, what does the enlightener do? It instills the truth within us. And that is what sets us free from our bondage. Bandhan tode sach vase, agyan adera jai. And in the light of that wisdom, through an intuitive awareness, we realize that the one that pervades everything also fashions our body. It's the same substance. We are of the same tissue. So therefore, says Nanak, seek refuge in that thing that we call the karta. It's not a thing, but we have to use language. The pauri. जद्दहों आपे थाट किया बह करता, तद्दहों पुच्छ न सेवक बिया, तद्दहों क्या को लेवै क्या को देवै, जा अवर न दूजा किया, फिर आपे जगत उपाया करता, दान सबना को दिया, आपे सेव बनायण गुरमुख आपे अमृत पिया, आप निरंकार आकार है, आपे करे सो थिया. So the last lines are very significant. Ape nirankar akar hai, ape aap kare sathiya. It is existence and non-existence at the same time. So the Guru begins the pauri by saying, when the Creator sat down to bring the physical universe into existence, jadde ape thaat kiya beh karte, he actually planned this. Not in the same way as we plan things, but we have to use the word plan. Beh karte. So we can't even say that he sat, but this is language we are dealing with. So when the Creator sat to bring the physical universe into existence, there was no consultation. There was no assistance sought from anyone. Taddeh pushana sevak biya. How could there be? There was nobody. At that moment, there was no one to take or to give. Taddeh kya ko leve, kya ko deve. Nothing existed other than the Creator. Jan avar na duja kiya. And then the Creator, through its will, through the force of its will, brought forth the entire world, fashioned the world. Fir ape jagat upaya karte. And then he provided the wherewithal, the resources to all beings to sustain themselves. Dan sabna ko diya. This is the real begging. Each being was given a role. Ape seva banayan. And through the enlightener, through the Guru principle, the Creator guides us to drink the nectar of divine wisdom. So that's the whole idea, that we need to realize our true selves, to see the nature of that thing we call the self from which we are fashioned. And to recognize that whatever happens is through its sovereign will. Ape kare sathiya. So creation, existence, and non-existence, being and becoming, immanent and transcendent, these are all qualities of the self, and they exist simultaneously. And when existence and non-existence flow into each other, they create an imaginary field, if you will, an illusory field that we call Maya. That is why in the Indian traditions, Maya is that. It's an illusion. Why? Because it is and it isn't at the same time, because it is constantly changing. The minute you say it is, it isn't. So essentially, the message is that all worldly attachment is attachment to the transient, to the passing, and it brings pain. We ought to be, the practical lesson is we need to live in the world with wisdom, to stay a step ahead, to be proactive, if you will. And that insight comes to us through the power of the Gur. And the way to play this change is to ride the wave of change, right? And the way you ride a wave is you surrender to it. If you have seen people who surf the waves in the ocean, they don't resist the wave. They cannot. Similarly, do not resist the wave of the will of the sovereign. Flow with it. And when you're on the wave, everything is the wave. That is liberation. And that liberation comes through Nam, wisdom of the self. So live with a sense of detachment. Constantly seek knowledge and growth, that is change, and serve others because that same one is in everything. And commit yourself to focus on the larger picture, not just on your own petty little ego. Live with humility, live with submission to what is happening around you. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.